Welcome back, attractive and well-educated watchers, to Odyssey, the Invention of Science by the Young Socratics. Last time... pardon one moment. Last time we left off, we spent almost the entire episode looking at constellations and being really dumb with this thingy here. But that's okay, because we also found out how the phases of the moon work, and we found out why we can tell that the moon is not a disk, and how we can also tell that the Earth is not a disk, and how they're both balls. Because of how light works. What do we got today? It appears that today we have a planetarium. A magical planetarium. That's not true. It's 100% scientific. So... we do... One moment, we forget all our keys for a moment here. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. No, we are very much, forgetting all of our keys right now. Please forgive us. Ah, spacebar, that's the one. Alright. So we're gonna read. Sid decided, oh yes, remember this is mostly reading and silly little science experiments. So if you're excited to see mostly reading and silly little science experiments, please remember to like, subscribe, and do all those other lovely things that help us get the channel bigger. Check out our description. Consider, you know, checking out our Patreon, pledging just $1 a month, checking out our World Anvil, where we make fiction stuff, maybe even checking out our Teespring to get, like, you know, to get some merch or something. Alright. Yes. So let's get to reading about some science journals. And remember, journals are very important in science, because it's a very good way, you know, to get information as it happens. July 9th, 6:30 p.m. Sid decided to just stay with me till Mom and Dad and Guillaume came up for the night. In the last few hours waiting, they were thinking about how we just built a model that could make solar eclipses, and Sid thought of a way to also make solar and lunar eclipses using the strange army logic cranks on the top floor, the ones that open the two exits but never at the same time. So we rigged up a different kind of eclipse maker on the top floor. I made another papier-mâché sun and moon, and also an Earth this time. Sid put the lamp in the center of the room inside the sun sphere, and he hung the Earth sphere out on a beam, and he put the moon on a small beam attached to a spool around the post holding the Earth. Alright, bam, there we go. Last, he rigged up a belt so that turning the crank which opened the doors would also make the moon go around the Earth, so now, by turning the crank, we can make both eclipses, the moon casting its shadow on the Earth, and the Earth casting its shadow on the moon, and each opens one of the doors. Okay, that's the important one, so we need to make a lunar and a solar eclipse. Playing with our models, waiting for Mom and Dad to come for dinner, I thought more about how to prove the Earth was a sphere, because of course it is. The new eclipse models were interesting, but I don't think they could help with the shape of the Earth. They even assumed the Earth was a sphere when I haven't proven that yet. Maybe Dad will be ready to give me a hint about how to do that tonight. After dinner, I asked Dad about proving the Earth was a sphere. He said the answer can be found in what the pirates had written about the Carib astrologers' arguments. They were surprised how much he knew compared to his people. The astrologers spoke of lunar eclipses they'd seen before that happened higher in the night sky, so they could see them progress, the shadows slowly moving across the cover, to cover the whole moon over the hours. He also spoke of solar eclipses they had seen, and how they were the same kind of thing, but with the moon casting a shadow on the Earth. That surprised me. I've seen solar eclipses before on web videos, not in real life. We have personally seen a solar eclipse in real life. It is a life-changing experience. It just looked like something round and invisible covered the sun over time. You couldn't see the moon itself at all. The part of the sun that it was covering was just looked missing. Dad said it took a lot of observations to figure this out. Ancient astronomers saw that lunar eclipses only happen when the moon is full. which makes sense if it's caused by the Earth getting in between the sun and the moon, because that's when you see the full moon. With the solar eclipses, the moon must be between the Earth and the sun, and that's during the new moon, which is not seeing the moon at all, really, because no light is shining on the side facing the Earth. So this is a solar eclipse. The Carib astrologer knew all of this, but he still thought the Earth was flat, like a round disc, according to the pirates. It took more proof and time for people to finally accept that the Earth was a sphere. The last piece, he said, came from watching lunar eclipses. I think I know what he means. Those are the only times you get to see the Earth's shadow anywhere. Sorry, we're a little down today, like in the physical sense, so we're a little off. But since the Earth's shadows on the moon would look curved, shouldn't the Carib astrologers have figured out the Earth was a sphere, or could a round disc also cast a curved shadow? Since I'm stuck up here letting my ankle heal, I think I'll build another model. I overdid this model too, but now I'm thinking about bringing any models in to show everyone at school when we get home, so it's okay to make them nicer than they need to be. Nice. This one was tricky. I needed a sun light to hit the Earth and cast shadows on the moon, but using both flat and spherical Earths to put together some sliders. I put together some sliders and a crank to swap the two Earth's shapes without moving anything else to see the different shadows. With a spherical Earth, no matter how I moved everything, I always saw the same curved shadow on the moon. If that makes sense, a ball casts the same shadow from every angle. With a flat Earth, I saw a similar curved shadow when it was facing the moon. That would be a lunar eclipse when the moon is high in the sky. That's why the Carib astrologer could believe in a flat Earth, even though he saw a curved shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse. But I could turn the flat Earth model sideways to cast a weird shadow stripe on the moon, like how it would be for a lunar eclipse happening when the moon is close to the horizon. Last night, Dad said every lunar eclipse has the same curved shadow whether the moon is near the horizon or high overhead. My model shows that this wouldn't happen if the Earth were flat like a disc. This was definite proof the Earth is a sphere. So, flat Earth casts a curved shadow only when it faces the moon directly. A spherical Earth always casts a curved shadow over the moon, no matter what. I showed everyone my model, especially how the flat Earth casts a thin vertical shadow stripe on the moon, proving Earth can't be flat or we'd see lunar eclipses like that sometimes. The Carib astrologer probably didn't work with such models. So when a lunar eclipse happens when the moon is low on the horizon, it would cast a line if it were the flat Earth instead of a curved thing, a curved shadow. Super words today. Impossible eclipse moon on if this were, yeah, there it is. Boom. It was a little windy last night, so Mom, Sid, and Guillaume put their sleeping bags inside the main room of the top floor. Dad stayed out with me on the exposed observation deck. I guess he couldn't tell I was asleep, and he asked me what I was thinking about. I was satisfied that I had finally had direct evidence that the Earth must be a sphere, that the Earth is a sphere. I learned that Aristotle had also given this argument, so he was clearly an experienced philosopher. I also thought Aristotle's physics made sense in how it explained why the Earth is round and why antipodes don't fall off into space, but it also led to the conclusion that the Earth was stationary at the center of the universe. I know that's not right. It seems strange to me that Aristotle could be so clever in so many ways, but also believe things that were so wrong. Little Aristotle guy. Dad reminded me that things today which seem obvious were not so obvious back then. How could I know the sun didn't go around the Earth without modern information? I'd proven the Earth and the moon were spheres, but the shapes of the planets and moons had nothing to do with what was circling what. That was a whole different problem. I fell asleep soon after that, and now I'm waiting for everyone else to wake up. They said we should be able to cross the bridge to the next piece of wretched minor today, as soon as Dad wakes up anyway. I think he's sleeping in this morning because I saw him up again in the night looking out at the sea with binoculars. I wish I knew what he was looking for. Alright, so we've got two silly pieces of information. We've got sun and moon, and the doors open when each are eclipses. And then we know now, in our little highlighted texts, that a flat Earth would cast a thin vertical shadow stripe on the moon rather than anything else. So let's check it. All right. Yup. Come on now. All right. So now, surely, one of the doors is open. Bam! Look at that. Oh, this is a pretty view. Sadly, we can't crouch. Oh, well, we don't need to crouch. Lovely. Look at that. Bam! What a beautiful vista. That would be something that we would want to see. Oh, is this, maybe it's a flat earthy thing. Alright. Do we... Oh, wait. Bam. Yup, and here we see... Here we can see that, bam. Were we supposed to click a button or whatever? Long story short, yeah, if that were a flat Earth, this is what a lunar eclipse would look like. And it would not look right. Oh, wait. Come on. There we go. Bam. Oh, it's a key. Come on. We got a little jerky motion here. Come on. Okay, we're gonna turn our DPI down just a touch. Come on. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can just grab it here. Okay. See, we are not good at this kind of Myst-style puzzle game. We're also far too curious right now about, yeah, we gotta... Come on. We gotta do some solar eclipsing. Bam. Okay, and this would be right. Oh, okay. And we can't jump in this game, so... We did indeed want the lunar eclipse before we wanted the solar eclipse. Or we just want it in general. So, let it be known, everybody, we want the lunar eclipse. Alright. Oh, nope. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. So let's go out here. Zip on over. Well, it doesn't work anymore. There's a trap! Oh boy. A 20-kilogram chain. Yeah! Nice. We have officially confirmed that the Earth is a sphere. We know all the ways that you even can know to figure that out. So... Oh, we see the 20-kilogram thing. Oh, that's kind of cool. And then we're heavier than the 20-kilogram thing. So we slide down. Damn, look at this. Beautiful. Oh, we're super down, guys. Let's just take a moment to soak this in. This is wonderful vistas, the likes of which you would want to see in the Caribbean. Wow. Okay, well, enough sightseeing. Let's get going. All right. There's a test in there. I don't know what it is yet. But we will thoroughly investigate this area. And surely... Oh! Oh my. Oh, yes, good. Well then, we have a journal update. Probably having to do with this. So, let us journal away. Once again, long reading points. July 11th, 4:30 p.m. So a couple days later, we crossed over the fixed rotating bridge this morning, but we found we still couldn't get over the main part of Wretched Minor. There was another bridge we needed to cross, and it was broken too. The first bridge took almost a week to repair, and Mom thinks this one might take longer. The zipline leading here from the bunker... sorry guys. Leading here from the bunker island was easy to fix though, and Sid took care of that first thing. It works great. My ankle is still swollen and hurting too much for anyone to help me up to the top of the bunker over and over, so I only got to ride it once so far. This bit of Wretched Minor has a couple shacks on it with nothing inside but some tables and barrels. There's an old well around the back covered by an army grate. Mom says we might look into it later if we need a fresh water source. Might be a thing. The exciting part is a tall radio tower, but we can't figure out how to reach it. Sid has a theory, though. Sid has a hypothesis. We can rotate the bridge from this side so it doesn't connect back to the bunker island, and when we do, it connects to the steps leading down to a small lagoon. Sid dove in and... oh, whoops. Wrong way. Sid dove in, and he said the steps lead to a door, but he can't open it with all the water pushing against it. He thinks it might lead to the tower. We have a sump pump, and Mom says we might empty the lagoon later and see, but she can tell high tide will just fill it up again, so we'll have to be careful. When we have the bridge turned away from the bunker island, the only way to get there is by zipline, so Mom and Dad decided to use these two shacks would be our new base. In case anyone comes and figures out the two combination locks in the bunker, Mom put a padlock on the zipline and has the only key, which we've gotten. At night we can rotate the bridge away, and that makes Dad feel secure. I think he's being paranoid. We haven't found more evidence that anyone's been here, and we haven't seen any boats or lights out to sea. Gyame tells us people do sail by from time to time, but everyone knows it's very dangerous because of all the rocks, so no one ever comes too close. There's nothing to worry about. July 11th, 9:15 a.m. I was thinking about how the stars follow circular paths in the sky. If the stars were doing the moving, they would all have to go different speeds, depending on how far they were from the pole star, to keep the same distances from each other and not get scrambled. That sounds magical, and I wondered how Aristotle would explain it if the Earth were stationary at the center of the universe. Isn't it much simpler, for one thing, the Earth to spin instead of thousands of stars to move the other direction, all at different speeds but staying perfectly synchronized? Dad told me Aristotle said all the stars were embedded in the surface of a celestial sphere made of ether. The stars were spots on the celestial sphere where the concentration of ether was dense enough to be luminous. This celestial sphere rotated as a single unit around the Earth about once a day. The pole star was on the northern pole of this spinning sphere, and that's why it didn't move while all the other stars seemed to revolve around it. Aristotle believed ether, the substance stars were made of, allegedly, was weightless and had a natural tendency to move in circles, so no effort was needed to rotate the celestial sphere. The Earth rotating made no sense to him, since he believed the natural motion of the heavy elements, earth and water, which make up the Earth, was along a straight line towards the center of the universe, not circular motion. Ether moves in circles, allegedly. Water and Earth move in straight lines, allegedly. I thought it made more sense for only one thing, the Earth, to be doing the moving, not the countless stars, but putting them on a celestial sphere was a clever way to make the spinning sky also one thing. I'll have to find some other angle to uncover problems with Aristotle's model, because we now know that Aristotle's model was incorrect. July 12th, 8:45 p.m. Sid and I have been watching the stars ever since we got up to the Wretched Islands, and I've noticed they're a little higher each night when they appear after sunset. Ta-da! You can see it right here, down at the bottom left. It's like they're rising a bit sooner each day. A day is 24 hours long, and it looks like the celestial sphere takes slightly less time than that to rotate once around. Dad told me I'm right. The celestial sphere takes about 4 minutes less than 24 hours to rotate one full turn. Because of this, every night the stars rising at the eastern horizon are progressively different. Like if a star rises immediately after sunset today, then tomorrow when the sun sets, it'll have already risen and be slightly above the horizon. A few weeks later, it'll appear even higher. This means that over the course of months we see different stars at night. That's why the ancients could tell the seasons by looking at which stars and constellations were visible. Nice. Stars rise earlier each day, and Dad says they'll get back to where they started a year from now. It's because the difference of just under 4 minutes times 365 days equals about one whole day. So if a star is rising on the horizon exactly at sunset today, a year later it will rise at the same time. Nice. I told Dad that this was a problem for Aristotle's celestial sphere model. If the sun moved exactly with the stars, he would see the same stars every night, but there's a 4-minute difference. Dad said the ancients knew this, and the sun was given its own separate sphere, which rotated slower by about 4 minutes than the starry sphere. That explains how the sun moves a little slower than the stars, and after a year gets back to the same position it had before the starry sphere. I never thought about how much the stars were different at night, or how they were the same on the same night every year. I'm going to have to think about that some more. Oh, still no yellow bold yet. I rubbed the paint thinner on a plastic globe I had, and when the paint came off, the globe itself was transparent, so I used it to build a model of the celestial sphere, with the stars rotating around a spherical Earth in the middle. Bam! Sid helped me put a light bulb on an armature representing the sun, which also rotated around the Earth with celestial sphere using the same crank, but it could also be moved relative to the celestial sphere using another crank, so while the first crank showed how the sun and stars rotate around the Earth every day, the second crank helped me see how the sun moved relative to the stars over a whole year. The ancient people divided the stars in the sky into patterns called constellations. The path of the sun around the celestial sphere throughout the year was divided into 12 parts, one for each month of the year. I didn't know until Dad told me that the idea of months comes from how it takes about 30 days for the moon to cycle through all of its phases. The word month comes from the word moon. And indeed, for the record, in the classical period, months were just referred to as moons. In each month, the sun passes through a different constellation, and these 12 are called the... Oh, sorry, we read 20 diacles, and we're... Oh, no, that's... Right. The zodiacal constellations. If you don't find the sun in any arbitrary location on the celestial sphere, it's always within the narrow band of the zodiac constellations. Dad also told me the orbit of the sun against the celestial sphere is called the ecliptic. The strange thing is that even the moon and planets Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are always found in the band of the zodiacal constellations. As you can see, bam. Every day, the sun appears 1 degree from its previous location on the celestial sphere. Since it takes a year, close to 365 days for the sun to come back to the same spot on the celestial sphere, some scientists think this is why ancients divided its circle into 360 degrees. Otherwise, we might as well have divided the circle into 10 or 100 degrees instead of 360. It was fascinating to hear Dad link some of the geometry stuff we take for granted with astronomy. Wow, really going far on this one. After lunch, Sid had to go back and help Mom and Gyame repairing the bridge, so I spent the rest of the day drawing and pasting the zodiacal constellations on my celestial sphere. Bam, zodiac. The celestial sphere is cool, but it seems too complicated. Having the Earth rotate is way simpler than having huge rotating celestial spheres, but how can Earth rotating explain the differences between the positions of the sun and the stars every day, and how they progress until the sun is back to its original spot among the stars after a year? I can't explain that just by having the Earth rotate. I needed another model, this time with the Earth spinning around its axis, but But if the sun doesn't move, and neither do the stars, in order to get the sun to change position relative to the stars in the Earth's sky, either the sun or the Earth needed to orbit. This time, instead of putting the Earth at the center, I put the sun at the center and made the Earth travel around it. Sid helped me build a model with gears that moved the Earth around the sun, but also spun around on the Earth on its axis at the same time. Heliocentric model, bam, that's a thing. So the sun goes around, or the Earth goes around the sun. It showed that this model would explain the apparent motion of the sun among the stars. As the Earth moved around the sun, a line drawn from the Earth through the sun would hit a slightly different spot on the starry background every day. After one complete revolution of the Earth around the sun, i.e. a year, that line would hit the same stars again. So we can see the heliocentric model, or the sun in the middle. Helio, sun, centric, center. Sun in the center of everything. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, Day 4, Day 5. I cut off the bottom of a barrel, then attached the model to the middle of the base. Then I drew the zodiac constellations on the inside rim of the barrel so that I could see the sun travel through all 12 zodiac constellations over a year as seen from Earth. Now I have two models which both explain the same observations, and I'm determined to show Dad that my model with the sun at the center is simpler and better. Nice, that's some sciencing right there. After dinner, I realized there was a problem with the Earth-centered or geocentric Earth. Geo meaning Earth, centric being center, so Earth in the center, celestial sphere model. It explained how the sun would move relative to the stars in the zodiac constellations, but we also have seasons. In summer it's hotter, and the sun is up for longer. In winter it's colder, and the days are shorter. Nothing about the celestial sphere explains why this happens. With the geocentric model, every day of the year is equally long, and there's no reason for the temperature or weather to change back and forth throughout the year. When I pointed this out to Dad, he asked me how my sun-centered heliocentric model explained the seasons. He was right, neither model had explained the seasons. I attached a small pen laser beam to the sun of each model and made it always point at the Earth, and saw that it always landed on the Earth's equator every day of the year. Oh, here we go. Bam, look at that. Geocentric model, no tilt. Heliocentric model, no tilt. By a stroke of luck, though while fiddling with my heliocentric model, I bumped the Earth and it got tilted, but it still worked, so it could spin while moving crooked around the sun. This meant the laser hit different altitudes on the Earth at different times of year. At one point, when the Earth was tipped most toward the sun, the light hit its highest latitude in the northern hemisphere. Then, as the Earth orbited around the sun, the laser pointer moved south, crossed the equator, and when the Earth was on the opposite side of the sun, tipped mostly away, the laser hits the lowest latitude in the southern hemisphere. So that's how we get our seasons. Then it started moving north again until it got back to its starting point a year later than it started. The places where the sunlight hit most perpendicular, shown by the laser, would be hotter than the places where the sunlight hit more at an angle. Dad explained that this was because when sunlight hits at a shallow angle, the same amount of sunlight is spread out over a larger area, so it's cooler. It was hard to understand, so he drew a diagram, and then I understood. Boom. Diagram. Perpendicular rays, smaller area, higher intensity. Angled rays, larger area, lower intensity. That's, light just gets spread out. This explains the seasons because the angle that the sun hits a particular latitude on the Earth is always changing. When the laser hits straightest on a point in the northern hemisphere, it's late spring, summer, or early fall. And when the laser hits somewhere on the southern hemisphere, it's fall, winter, or early spring in the northern hemisphere. Bam, here we go. The red line indicates the laser. So this is summer solstice, where the Tropic of Cancer, or the northern hemisphere, is getting direct sunlight. This is winter solstice, where the southern hemisphere is getting, or the Tropic of Capricorn, is getting direct sunlight. And equinoxes are where it's basically pointing at the equator. Tonight, Dad told me more about the seasons. The real Earth's axis tilts at about 23.5 degrees away from the vertical, and so should my model. Tipped that much, the laser light hits the northernmost latitude called the Tropic of Cancer on the day called the summer solstice. Across the equator, crosses the equator on the autumnal equinox, reaches the southernmost latitude called the Tropic of Capricorn on the winter solstice, then crosses the equator again on the spring equinox to finally return to the northern hemisphere. Bam! Nice. That said, I said this was all great, but it didn't prove the geocentric model was wrong. Pardon. The celestial spheres didn't explain seasonal changes like this, but no, Dad said I tipped the Earth of my heliocentric model to get it to work, and something similar could be done for the geocentric model. If I tilted the sun's orbit in the celestial sphere by the same angle of 23.5 degrees, instead of keeping it horizontal, I could also explain the seasons. I made these changes, plus added a pen laser to the geocentric model and saw the sunlight fall directly on different latitudes throughout the year. In the summer solstice, the sun was highest along the ecliptic, and the laser hit the Tropic of Cancer. In the northern hemisphere, as the sun moved south, the laser crossed the celestial equator on the autumnal equinox, when the laser dot hit the Earth's equator. Next, the sun reached its lowest point on the winter solstice directly over the Tropic of Capricorn, when it climbed back up to the ecliptic and crossed the celestial equator on the spring equinox, when the laser dot hit Earth's equator. That's kind of that's a difficultly written segment there, but we don't know how to fix it. Then the sun kept climbing up the ecliptic until it reached the highest point again on the summer solstice. I also adjusted zodiac constellations to form a band along the ecliptic instead of the celestial equator, as I first put them. Now the models can explain everything like the heliocentric model, so I haven't proven heliocentric model is better. The geocentric one still seems more complicated, but it works just as well at explaining everything, so I'm back to square one. Alright, well, let's check this out. We know it's a lot of just us reading, and this will be our last dealie here. Okay, so now we have our geocentric model and our heliocentric model. Alright. Okay, so we're gonna turn it. Oh, we're gonna just hold it. Yeah, okay, so here you can see. Bam! There you go. Hits the tropics. We believe it wants us to do this one. Yup, and at that point of year, it stays there. Okay. Yup, and alternatively, and now this does its spinny thing. We can see that the laser pointer is on the Tropic of Capricorn, but slowly moves back up as it comes around. Okay, we see what's going on here, and then moves back down. That's super cool to see. So, you can definitely see how seasons work, but the Earth requires it to be a sphere just for seasons to work. So let's go back and look specifically what they wanted to. Okay, lowest point over Tropic of Capricorn. And then the other one wanted us to... Sorry, it's been a bit, so I'm just going to go back to check your notes. When the Earth was on the opposite side of the sun, tipped mostly away, laser hits the lowest latitude on there. Okay, so we're going to get it hitting the lowest latitude. Alright. We believe it would be like just over here. Yeah, boom, there we go. Alright, we have officially learned some science here, folks. Officially, and we got us some journals, but we are gonna have to read those journals next time to figure out this cool moon secret here. So if you like what you saw and you're excited to see some more science next time we get back to this game, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for all sorts of notifications, and support our channel and do all those things that we love to see. Head on down to the description, maybe check out the science channel link of the video that we have. Maybe consider checking out our Patreon and consider pledging just $1 a month, because that really helps. Go on down to our World Anvil, where we make all sorts of fiction stuff, and maybe even consider hitting up our Teespring for our merch store. All the links in the description. Have a great day, stay safe, stay inside, stay educated, save lives, and remember, of course, that Black Lives Matter. Bye!